All right. All right, welcome in, everybody, here to the Flagship Football Show. Welcome in to episode 2. If you tuned in last week, thank you so much. Glad we didn't bore you too much. Glad you're back here listening again. We're sad to report that Michael Spears is MIA today. I think some baseball reasons, somewhat, maybe some school. I think he's trying to be smart.
Yeah.
I mean,
as school comes first, as they say, which I've always thought is lame, but
we're student podcasters, not podcast students.
Right.
We're students first.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So Michael Spears isn't with us this week. He'll be back next week. It'll get good with him in a couple of weeks because, as everybody knows, Ole Miss baseball is right around the corner. So we will have Michael Spears hopefully with us every single week during the season. It'll be great to hear from him. Like we talked about last week, he's in the dugout, manager with the team and everything. He knows all these guys. Has been with them for years. And so, he's got a lot of great insight. He's probably got a lot of really cool stories that hopefully we get to hear down the road here. So if you haven't seen us before, I'm Jake Evans alongside Land Teller here. We are doing the Flagship Football Show now as a part of the Rebel Walk. We brought it under the Rebel Walk umbrella. We're happy to be with them. We're happy to be with Evie Van Pelt and the rest of the Rebel Walk staff, a staff which we are both a part of. But we're happy to be over with Rebel Walk doing our thing and back here with the podcast. So the first thing that we have to say, we got to put out a PSA because as of
28 hours. No, what time is it? 23 hours ago.
As of 23 hours ago, the podcast, along with the people who
No, I'm sorry, 27.
27.
6.
Somewhere
over a day.
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark. The podcast, along with the people who inhabit the podcast studio that doubles as a house, we're all homeless now. We've been evicted. We have been evicted, not by our own doing. The house is simply collapsing, for lack of a better word.
Every second we sit here, we put our lives into our own hands. At any moment, the floor could completely give out, and we could be buried under miles of rubble.
Mm-hmm.
So if the audio stops midway through, please call the cops.
No one will ever hear the show on Spotify or Apple. But the people, anyone watching on YouTube will suddenly, at about the 2:40 mark, just see, just straight through the floor. Yeah.
Call the fire brigade. Call your local government, whether that's senators, governors, mayors, or whatnot.
Anybody.
Because we will need help.
Anybody with help, yeah. So as we said, because of that, we're effectively homeless now. So I guess anybody with a podcast studio laying around, anybody, got a spare podcast studio you don't use?
We could check eBay.
We could. Craigslist always works. Yeah, we got a lot of. We're exploring all avenues. That's the politically correct way to say. We're exploring all avenues here, trying to figure out what our next move is. But as of now, we're not really sure. We'll make it work. We'll keep doing episodes regardless. But it might be in a garage. We might have to deal with some acoustic issues.
Could be in the back of my Civic.
It's spacious enough. It could happen. It could happen. So yeah, we don't really know where we're going next. But I don't know. It's kind of upsetting because, as you can see, we built this little podcast studio that we're actually pretty proud of. We got the flagship flag and we got all the posters and schedules and everything. And when I walked in here, I said I'm kind of sad. I'm kind of sad to see it go. We've had some good times here.
Well, yes, there have been some great times here, but to be frank, this house is kind of gross. There's a palpable wetness in the air. I mean, you just walk in. Yeah, you do. You walk in and you immediately feel damp. It's
one of those deals.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, think of it as like the Tad Pad. Think of it exactly like the Tad.
Actually, yeah, that's a great analogy.
This wonderful building that we have made tons
so
of
much
memories.
History, so many great times, so many bad times.
Yeah, but you also have to cancel a couple games because the roof is leaking.
Mm-hmm.
You think of it that way. We're going to hopefully find our pavilion that hopefully comes with Raising Cane's and a steak and shake. And if
are those the restaurants you choose? If you got
no, I would pick Cane's and I would throw in the Golden Arches.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
My official position on McDonald's is people that think they're too good for McDonald's.
Get off your high horse.
Yeah. Must be high up there. Is the air a little thin?
You feeling good about yourself? Yeah.
Yeah. You're
I'm right there with
trashing on an American classic.
Yeah, exactly. Get out of here.
It's like
garbage.
Seabiscuit.
Or Lassie, something.
Yeah.
One of those. All right. So we'll jump in here too. As we said last week, Ole Miss basketball has kind of had a rough go this year. Not quite what we expected with this team. With Kermit and everything, we expected a little bit more than what we've got. Fortunately, Ole Miss was on a 2-game winning streak coming into Arkansas, who they played last night, or I guess Tuesday or Wednesday night, if depending on when you're watching this. So we had beat Mississippi State 64-46, and then beat A&M 61-50, holding SEC opponent, those two SEC opponents to just 48 points a game. The staple of Ole Miss basketball this year is the defense for sure. I mean, staple, I think, makes it sound like we're really good at it. That's
like a dog ear.
That's what this team has to be able to do well in order to win, because it's been pretty obvious that the offense just really isn't there. And last night it was another exhibition like that. This team doesn't score a whole lot of points, and last night they only put up 59, which that can win you some games. But if you're going to put up 59 points, you better have another one of those 48-point defensive performances. Right. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Arkansas wins 74-59 in Fayetteville. Arkansas jumps to 13-4, 5-4 in the conference, and Ole Miss falls to 8-7 with a 3-5 conference record. Leading the way, Devontae Shuler again. He played well last night. Shot 9 of 12 from the floor. He was about, he's about the only person that really stepped up last night and played well. Jarkel Joyner and Luis Rodriguez both put up double digits with him. But other than that, it was a bunch of 2-point collections from the rest of the team. Like we said, obviously not Ole Miss's best night, and it was pretty frustrating because the offensive woes were just glaring last night. I mean, you look at it, Ole Miss shoots 43.9% from the field. Not that bad. Arkansas shot 48.1. The real kicker, though, Arkansas shoots 7 of 17 from three-point line, 41.2%. Ole Miss goes 1 of 16 for a whopping 6.3%. So I understand when you got shooters on a team, sometimes you got to just give them the green light, even if they're missing. You got to shoot your way out of a slump. That's what a lot of people say. That's the way you get out of it. You can't stop shooting, otherwise you'll never make it again. At some point, though, you got to stop shooting.
Well, here's the thing that I've noticed with this offense is that, I mean, you literally just work the outside of the three-point line, and then they try and either find a three or they shoot the mid-range. And then the only points that we get, under the basket are rebound putbacks, that unless they're wide open layup or dunk or something like that.
We don't work the ball inside.
No, and it's very odd because it's like we can't get inside the lane. We just kind of chill out outside of it. And so it really hinders your ability to score the ball effectively. And you can't shoot 6% from three. I mean, that no. I can't hit the broadside of a barn from beyond the arc, but I feel like I could probably.
If we give you 16 shots, could you make one of them?
Oh, I sold myself short there. I
think you could shoot. I think you could hit one.
Here's how I work. I'm a microwave, right? If I'm hot, I'm hot. But if I'm cold, bench me because I will not make a single shot. So
the microwave analogy, I like that one.
Yeah,
I hadn't heard that.
Well, I credit 2K. It's one of the skills that you get.
Really?
Yeah.
What, being like hot as a microwave or something?
Well, it's like a microwave means you heat up quick.
Oh, okay.
So like if I'm KD and I hit a three, I might get the microwave. Yeah,
microwave
immediately kind of.
Oh, okay. I like that term.
Start.
Unfortunately, Ole Miss is not playing microwave basketball right now.
No.
Far from it.
Right.
Yeah, and like you said, they have trouble getting the ball inside. They don't really. It seems like at times they're happy settling for that that long range, the long mid range or the 3-pointer. Which that's not the end of the world. That's not a big deal. But the problem is, you got to make more of those shots than they are. I mean, it's just a simple fact. I mean, they can't. You can't shoot 6.3% from anywhere and expect to win a basketball game, much less really even compete. And the reality is, Ole Miss was down for most of this game, but really and truly, it was two Arkansas runs that kind of put this whole game, into the position that it was. Ole Miss was actually, relatively close in this game for a good portion of this game, but then, like I said, Arkansas had two separate 10-0 runs where they basically just pulled away and they didn't look back from that point.
it certainly could have been a lot worse. It eventually became pretty bad. But, I mean, to be real honest with you, it was very hard to watch. I mean, to be real frank, I had the Nashville Predators game on my laptop, and I kind of quit watching the basketball game because the hockey game was a little bit more entertaining. And it's hard to watch a team go 0 for 10 in the first half from three-point land. Yeah. And turnover after turnover, busted coverage after busted, if you can call it that in basketball. But, this team has a lot that it has to get fixed. And to be honest with you, I just don't think it's a possibility at this point because, I mean, it's not impossible. But Schuler has to continue to play like he has. Joyner has to play like he did the last 2 games.
He stepped up. He's been a huge addition to this year because that's what everybody was wondering. Was who's going to be that, other guy in the backcourt. It's been Brian Tyree and Devontae Schuler for a couple of years. Brian Tyree gone. They're wondering, Schuler stepped up nicely into his shoes. I don't think he's – I know he's not as prolific a scorer as Brian Tyree was at times. Right. But he's doing his job. He's like I said, he shot 9 of 12 last night. He's taking good shots. Well. When he shoots the ball, he's taking good shots. He takes care of the basketball. The problem is he just doesn't have a whole lot of help elsewhere.
He does not. And Matthew Murrell has to step up. I get it. You're a freshman. But, man, you just got to play basketball. And I can't – it's easy for me to say sitting, in my joggers and a T-shirt, not having not having played organized basketball since preschool. But it's just if this team is going to succeed, it needs a lot of help offensively. And here's the thing. If the offense gets clicking, you're going to win a lot of basketball games because the defense is so solid. The 1-3-1 is very hard to stop, and
almost does it well. They do it well.
Yes, we do.
For all of the shortcomings of this team, that is one thing they do very well.
But that's a Kermit staple. Like, that is how he does defense. Yeah. And, it's just –
after the game, he had an interesting quote that we made a note of. He said, quote, "I've never tinkered with this offense more in my entire career than I have with this team."
It's very valid.
Very, very valid. That scares the hell out of me to hear a coach say that. I mean,
the thing about college basketball,
it's good that he's not just sticking his head in the sand and saying we're going to run this and eventually it's going to work. It's good that he's at least he knows he's got to adapt and that what he's doing isn't working. That's good. I'm glad he's not. I mean, it's the same as any problem. The first step to identifying the problem is admitting that you have one. So at least he's aware of it. I mean, it'd be pretty hard not to be aware of it. But it does give you kind of an uneasy feeling, like he almost doesn't even know what's happening out there sometimes because it's and the thing is I don't know if it's not transferring over from practice. I don't know if it doesn't work in practice. I'm not really sure what's going on here, but it's tough, and there's just some times with this team where, I mean, honestly, kind of like a handful of Ole Miss sports, you can just tell they might not even be losing the game, but you can just tell we don't have the fight, we don't have the energy, they don't, the other team wants to be there more. It's only a matter of time before the floodgates get open and it really gets bad.
Last thing I'll say about this, and then we can move on, is with college basketball and kind of comment on that quote, like coaches that coach solid teams and if most of the SEC, Big 12, Big 10, all that stuff, ACC, you have 2 players that you can kind of filter your offense through, at least when and I think Kermit has for most of his career. I mean, we had Brian Tyree, and he was just an automatic bucket, and you had these nice, you had Terrence Davis, and
you had guys that the way I've described it is we've always, for the last handful of years, we've had a guy that could take over the game. Yeah, Brian Tyree could take over. Terrence Davis could take over. Yeah. Marshall Henderson, Steph Moody, those guys could take over a game when they wanted to. And I don't think Devontae Schuler can do that.
No,
he's a great player, but he doesn't have that.
He's not the all-world athlete all-world player that we need him to be. And so it's kind of like, I totally believe that he hasn't had to tinker with an offense because he's probably had an offense that's had at least one player that can carry the team to an extent where the offense can then, start to kind of churn because if,
around that guy.
Exactly. And Schuler's just not that kind of player. Like Tyree made everyone on the floor better, I think. Terrence Davis did too. Mm-hmm. And so it's very difficult for an offense that really has one player and that's it.
Yeah, and the thing that's frustrating too is, like we said, and it's not frustrating because he's played well. He's played better than expected. But Jarkel Joyner's, we've gotten flashes of him. I mean, he's he's scoring double digits. He's averaging double digits in SEC play this year. I mean, he's playing well, but it's not that 15 to 17 point range. It's that 10 to 13 point range ish, where you're getting a good contribution from him. But like we said, it's not capable of shaping the offense around him.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's some people might say that you don't really need that in basketball. I would argue that in college basketball, there's a bigger talent gap between your top guys and your middle of the road guys who maybe barely got a scholarship to come play. I think there's a bigger talent gap, and having that guy that's capable of taking over. I mean, that's why that's why all the the good you see make it far in the NCAA tournament, even if they're not full of 4 and 5 stars. They've got one dude who runs the show for them. Yeah. They got one dude. It's never you never make it to the Final Four by committee, really, unless it's like I said, all 5 and 4 stars.
Right.
Then you can make it by committee. But a lot of these teams, you see, it's that one highlight player who's scoring 25 to 30 a game, and everything goes through him, and he draws double teams, and if he gets other people open. That's the one thing is that you don't see teams. You see teams trap Devontae Shuler and Jarkel Joyner when they come across the half court, but it's not as much of a consistent double team, and so it really doesn't open up other things.
Right.
And one of the other things too is that Devontae Shuler he's a good passing guard. He's not holding on to the ball like we said, multiple times. He shot 9 to 12. It's not like he's taking 25 shots a game and trying to be the guy who takes over. He's doing exactly what he's is best at, which is being the 17 to 20 point scorer,
right,
who dishes the ball out, who takes good shots, who manages the offense. And sadly, as we've clearly said, we kind of just – it's more exciting and it's more energetic, and it seems to go better when you got one dude that just takes over.
Yeah.
It really does. So we'll move on from that. Like as we said, final score 74 to 59. Ole Miss drops to 8-7. Not looking good for the Rebels from here on out. Next up, they go to Georgia on Saturday, or they play at Georgia Saturday night. Then they go to Tennessee, Tennessee comes to Oxford. Then it's Auburn, Missouri, South Carolina, Mississippi State, Missouri again, Vandy, and Kentucky. All of which really there's no duds. There's no real duds in that lineup.
Well,
I'm not sure about South Carolina.
And Auburn, we roughed them up the first time we played them. Vanderbilt's not very good. South Carolina's not very good. There are winnable games for Ole Miss. I mean, and you can see them getting state again. Probably not, but it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
the one that I would really like to see, I would really love to see Ole Miss finish the season beat Kentucky.
Yeah,
Kentucky is bad this year,
but we don't want them at the end because that's. I mean, granted, it's taking them longer than usual to kind of get rolling, but I bet you by that time.
I don't know. Kentucky's 5-10 right now with a 4-4 conference record.
Really?
A lot of people are. I've been seeing things that are saying basically Kentucky's only shot to make the tournament is winning the SEC.
Yeah.
Which
I don't know. I mean, my thing is that I with Kentucky.
With a good coach like Cal, and with
5 stars.
They're not playing well, but they are 5 stars. They are highly recruited players. These are guys that had a plethora of options to choose from. They're good players. For some reason, it's just not clicking. I don't know why.
I think they'll get rolling because that's and I hope I'm wrong. I hope that we walk into Kentucky and they're terrible and we beat them.
That'd be fantastic. That would be super. All right, so as we said, Ole Miss basketball certainly seen better days, but looking up, we still got a few games here. As we said, a handful of winnable games. We'd love to close the season out here with some nice wins and kind of end it here on a high note. So the other big news that came out of Ole Miss this week was the release of the 2021 football schedule. So obviously that's probably been the most hype. This has probably been the most hype surrounding an offseason that we've had in years. I would say maybe since the 20
year after the Sugar Bowl, probably.
Going
into.
Or either that or the Treadwell, Kandichi, Tunsil class that offseason.
Yeah. But we still knew we weren't really, that was still probably like.
We still knew we had a year or two before it was going to happen. Yeah, so like we said, tons of excitement in this offseason. It's a lot of fun. It's a really fun time to be an Ole Miss fan right now. We deserve it, damn it. We do. We do. We've been through the ringer. And so, we're happy with where we're at right now. But this schedule, I don't know. There's been some mixed reviews on this. I don't think the quality of the opponents is no harder than it ever is. We're still playing in the SEC West. We're still playing Auburn, Alabama, LSU every year. We still got the juggernauts that we got to go through. But I think the hardest part about this, when you look at the schedule, so Ole Miss opens one of those they got the Chick-fil-A kickoff game in Atlanta.
Yep.
Against Louisville. That'll be on Labor Day weekend. That'll be an exciting game. That
is that on Labor Day?
It's on Labor Day.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm excited for that one. That's going to be fun. It's always fun to play. Another
out of conference.
Big. Because it's nice to play a non-conference team that's actually worth playing.
Are they in the ACC now, or are they still an American?
That's a good question.
I think they're in the ACC, but they keep jumping around.
Yeah.
They were in the Big East with Teddy Bridgewater, and then they were in the American Conference.
Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap.
Yeah, it's just I can't keep up. I mean, we should win that game.
Yeah, but I think we should too. So we got that one week 1. That'll be kind of a good gauge to see where we're at, because I don't really know about Louisville, but I'd imagine Ole Miss is supposed to be better. Obviously, as everybody's seen, Ole Miss is ranked in most preseason polls and a lot of preseason polls.
ESPN has us 18?
I think so. I think we're up as high as anywhere like 18 to 21, depending on the poll. So that'll be a great gauge. Coming out of the gate there, week 1, playing another big time program in a neutral location. National TV, the whole 9 yards. It'll be a lot of fun, and it'll be a good debut for what is really Lane Kiffin's first real team.
Yeah,
I mean, not I'm saying that because this was not his team that he put together that we just played with.
Yeah,
he didn't put this team together
for the most part. Yeah,
for the most part, he did put a few pieces in it, but most of this team was left over from Matt Luke.
Right. And it still kind of is. I mean, they say year 3 is about when you get your guys really in. So the season after next year,
it'll be the 22 year.
Yeah, but I mean, this still will have his first real recruiting class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he got, I guess we hired him right after the Egg Bowl, and the signing period started 2 weeks later. So I think he had somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 14 days to try and do whatever. I mean, try and do whatever you
count that to him.
Right? No, you can't at all. But so like I said, it'll be a great test out of the gate. Louisville week 1, week 2, Austin Peay comes to Oxford. That should be a win. If the fly's open, let's go Peay. Yeah.
Have you heard? Did I tell you that story?
I don't know if you. I don't. Maybe.
Because they had a player named something Fly, and that was their little
flies open.
Receiver. Flies open. Let's
flies
go.
Open, let's go. Peay. Yeah, I love it. I feel like such a. I don't know. I feel weird screaming that. Just screaming, "Let's go!"
I think they love it. Yeah,
I'm sure they do. Yeah. I mean, it's like fans of schools say dumb stuff in the name of tradition all the time, and
yeah. And a lot of my high school football coaches played and coached at Austin Peay.
Yeah.
So and a lot of Nashville high school players that aren't quite good to go deep. One of those bigger programs to go to Austin.
Yeah, ton of guys that I played with too.
Yeah.
So Austin Peay week 2. Hopefully, we're looking at 2-0 at that point. Week 3, Tulane comes to town. You got to hope that's a third win. If any of those 3 games are a loss, you hope it's Louisville, but you hope none of them are losses, because after that, Ole Miss gets their bye in week 4. I'm not a big fan of that. I really don't think anybody is. You would much rather have your bye somewhere in the middle of your conference schedule. Week 7, 8, something like that. When you're getting tired, you got guys hurt, you need a week, whatever. Maybe you need another week to prepare. It would be, helpful to have another week to prepare for LSU or something like that. We get the bye in week 4, and then we absolutely go through the freaking gauntlet for the next 9 weeks. At Alabama, at home against Arkansas, at Tennessee, home against LSU, at Auburn, home versus Liberty, home versus A&M, home versus Vanderbilt, at Mississippi State to close out the season. Yeah. So we hit the entire brunt of the SEC schedule with Liberty jammed right there in the middle in week 10. We get the entire brunt of the SEC schedule in succession every single week.
Yeah, that's very hard.
That is brutal. I read an article on 24/7 Sports today said that Ole Miss has either the second or the third hardest schedule in the conference this year.
And my initial thought to all those, Ole Miss has one of the hardest, because all of them are my little. Those little Instagram accounts you follow that I think are probably 15-year-old boys or something like that.
Probably so, yeah.
They had Ole Miss very high as the hardest schedules, and I was like, I don't really know, because I feel pretty good about a lot of our chances with a lot of these teams, but not having a bye week after your 3 is essentially your cupcakes.
Mm-hmm.
That does no one any good.
No, it doesn't. Well, the thing is that the other cupcake that's left on the schedule is Liberty. It's not a cupcake.
Well, and Vanderbilt too, probably.
Well, but I'm saying the cupcakes as far as
not conference. Yeah.
Our non-conference is, usually SEC teams go for 4 cupcakes if they can,
Yeah.
or 3, and a Louisville type of team.
Right, that's winnable.
We opted for 2 cupcakes, a Louisville and Liberty, which
when we probably scheduled it, Liberty was a cupcake, but now
that's true. That's true. Yeah, that game was not scheduled after Hugh Freeze got there. It was not scheduled after Hugh Freeze got there.
Yeah, it just kind of worked out this way, which in my opinion makes for phenomenal television.
Oh, it will. You're an idiot if you don't think that's going to be a nationally televised game. I'm like,
well, yeah,
I've got to imagine. I mean,
probably.
If
it depends. If Liberty's trash by that point,
if they're trash, that's a different story.
Yeah,
no,
but if they're playing
Liberty
like
needs to be.
year,
So that's week 10. So Liberty needs to be 8-1
at least
9-0.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess
worst.
if they're. Yeah, you want them to be doing well.
They need to be playing very, very well because at that point they're not going to put a non-Power 5 team on national TV.
Yeah, I guess we as fans don't want to be doing well, so we can just kind of blow them out and be done with it.
Yeah, not have to worry about it. Yeah, because that game right there absolutely scares the hell out of me. I mean, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I mean
it's just
it's
it's nightmare. It's a nightmare scenario
Oh,
for us to be so. For us to be so. I mean, Ole Miss fans, we're so excited about Lane Kiffin. We love him.
Yeah.
Program's going in the right direction. I mean, it's all trending up and up and up, and we're feeling good. Best we've felt since Hugh Freeze was here.
Yeah.
Hugh Freeze is getting, a lot of people say he's getting blocked by Greg Sankey to come back in the SEC.
Yeah.
What does he get to do? The one SEC team he gets to actually do it, do something to.
It's awesome.
Ole Miss.
It's so poetic. It's awesome.
It is. And at that point, that'll be because I mean that will be kind of the ultimate barometer, I guess, of where Hugh Freeze's program actually is.
Yeah, because you can beat up on
the Coastal Carolinas and the BYUs
and whoop-de-doo, you beat Virginia Tech. A team that almost probably would blow out of the water, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's big for a program like Liberty that is not a sports program at all, really, to be winning these games. But that the Ole Miss Liberty game, in terms of a litmus test for Hugh Freeze, is that's where he gets to prove, like, look, I can still
do this. Well, he gets to say one, look, we're a legitimate team, even though we're not Power 5.
Yeah.
He gets to say that.
Well, they're independent, aren't they? I think they are.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay. He also gets to say, look, I deserve to be back in the SEC, or I at least should get a coordinator job, or basically, look, I'm still just as good at this as I was, before it all went up.
Well, even if it's not an SEC, I mean, you ACC, Big 12, Big 10, something like that. Just above an, whatever job.
I think he's capable of more. I think everybody knows he's capable of more.
It shocks me, honestly, that he didn't get hired. But a lot of big programs
don't want to touch him right now.
And there's a lot of big what I think the Greg Sankey thing definitely played a factor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because there are many SEC jobs that probably would want him, or maybe
Tennessee would take him. Auburn would take him. I would think. I mean,
Auburn. Well, the way
I'm saying, his capabilities as a coach, more than qualify him to coach at either one of those schools.
I think South Carolina would have been a great start for him to get back in the SEC. I don't know why they didn't look at him. I guess maybe that Greg Sankey thing was real, but he certainly is coaching a little bit below his pay grade.
His ability, for sure. Yeah, I think he is too, and I think it's funny that media personalities and different people online and whatever, people just kind of, like we said with McDonald's, people just kind of sit up on their high horse there and they say, no, we can't, no, we will not give him a second chance. What he did was the worst thing ever. We cannot forgive him for it. Give me a break. I mean, give me a break. Yeah, I'm not saying what he did was good. I know it wasn't. It was very bad. It was more than worth being fired for.
Yeah.
Guys have gotten second chances for a lot worse than what he did. And they get praised for it, and they get praised because they do their job.
He'll get another chance. I wholeheartedly believe that if he does what he did with Liberty again this year, he'll have an SEC job.
He absolutely will. He will, soon enough.
Where I don't know, because we've all kind of replaced coaches in the last 5 years that I don't know. So it may not be, but okay. I keep looking at the schedule. We really could win 10 games. Like.
Walk me through your 10.
Louisville, Austin, Tulane, 3-0. I think
3-0. We hit the bottom.
Bama beats us.
I would say so.
Arkansas is 4. We're going to be 285. If LSU is what they were this year, that's a win.
Or even close.
Yeah,
Because
even
I
if
think
they're a
we'll be
little
way
better.
better.
Yeah,
I think we'll
agree.
be much better.
And again, week 8, who knows? LSU could be rolling. I don't know. But right as it stands right now, if I'm judging it off the team that we saw last year, we can beat LSU. And it's at home. That's 6. Auburn is a dumpster fire right now. 7. I don't. And look, Brian Harsin, that was a guy that when we fired Matt Luke, he was kind of on my short list. I was like, oh, Boise State was not quite as good as they usually are last year. I don't know what that indicates or anything.
But it says about anything.
Yeah, but the fact that this, there was an inner coup that was staged at Auburn, this is our chance to beat Auburn. And I think we can and should. That's what, 7?
That's let me count my fingers here.
Yeah, 7. Liberty 8.
Liberty 8. Yeah.
We're not going to beat A&M. I think they're good. Although, no, we're going to say we lose. Because Kellen Mond's gone. So if they get a bad quarterback and they're bad, that could be 9. I'm just saying. But for the sake of this, let's say it's 8. And you could switch out A&M, LSU, whatever.
And then you go
Vandy 9, and you go State 10.
Yeah.
I don't think we should lose to State for a while.
See, what's really, really, I guess frustrating is the right word about that, is I feel like every single year we sit here and we pick out at least 8 games we think we can win.
Well, yes, but
and I think there's, on paper, I think we should beat Auburn this year. On paper, we should beat LSU. Sorry, no, not on paper. On paper looks very bad for the LSU game with all those turnovers.
Yes,
but
if you really think about it, we had a chance to beat Arkansas late in the game. Mm-hmm. We had a chance to beat LSU late in the game. Yeah. We had a chance to beat Auburn late in the game. That's 3 more wins. We're 8 and what? 3?
Mm-hmm. With the bowl win.
With the bowl. No. We'd be
7-3.
Yeah.
We played 10.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I just pulled up here, I wanted to reference this and say it right. So Georgia currently is holding the best recruiting class for 2020 right now. Alabama comes in at number 2, so that's fantastic. No surprise there. No surprise there. That's business as usual. Clemson 3, and then LSU's 4.
But they're always up
LSU's
there. They were up there last year.
But LSU's 4, A&M is 6, and Auburn is 7.
Yeah.
That's what worries me. Is that
this is 2021 is what you want probably, because I'm pretty sure this is the most, because look,
we're stupid. Yeah, go scroll down. Are we in 19 or whatever?
Yeah, this is 2021.
Sorry.
Auburn's not that high.
Okay, yeah,
that's what tipped me off.
You're right. You're right. I said that, and I was like,
yeah.
I was reading it. I was saying it. I was like, that doesn't sound right. Yeah.
You got Bama, Georgia, LSU 3 of 4, A&M 7.
LSU 4, A&M 7. Those are two teams that they always recruit well.
Yeah,
they pull out of 2 of the best talent pools of football in the country. And so you expect that, but it always. I was saying that to say it always leaves open the possibility that they bring in that they got a playmaker that we don't even know about yet.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. LSU's a big question mark.
I think it definitely helps that we have A&M at home this year. That definitely gives us.
It does help a lot.
Because I don't like playing at Kyle Field. I just get real bad juju vibes.
Yeah, you can put LSU as a question mark trending the lose side, and then you can put A&M as a question mark trending the win side. Because again, A&M could struggle without Kellen Mond. And it's just who knows. But now don't hear me say that I expect us to go 10 and whatever 2. Yeah. But the door is open for that, and it's tough. But without the hype and all that,
if the hype around Ole Miss football from this offseason and from the end of 2020 rolling on, if that matches the performance that we see in 2021, 9 or 10 is more than likely. I think.
Yeah,
that's totally within the realm.
But then again, you got to take into account the bye week injuries, all that kind of stuff.
You have to take.
Who knows? But
you have to take into account the fact that we play 7 SEC games, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We play 8 SEC games in 9 weeks.
Yeah,
you definitely have to take that into account because that. As we've said before, if you're going to sit there and say that the SEC is not the best or that it's not, the absolute gauntlet of college football, you're wrong. You're just wrong. There's no wiggle room there for an opinion. You're just wrong. Look at it every year, year in, year out.
In terms of just top to bottom.
Yeah. And the thing that's kind of sad is that right now there's there's a handful of bad teams. There's your South Carolinas and your Vandy's and things like that.
Yeah.
And then you've got the big chunk of the middle pack that I think
that are pretty
has
good. They're like
us
7
and
and 5.
Arkansas and State and the Missouris and some
7,
teams
5,
like
8,
that.
and 4.
Yeah, I think you got some of those. You got a lot of those teams. You get your LSU's and your Georgias that more often. Obviously LSU didn't this year, but more often than not, you got your Georgias and your LSU's and your Auburns that are 9-3, something like maybe sneak out a 10 win. But then you just got Alabama sitting up there at the top,
or Florida or Georgia. I mean, there's always those two teams that are just kind of
And one of the things that I think is really interesting about just watching these schedule releases and seeing people talk about it is that the schedule releases most of the time they match just in reverse the strength, like the best teams in the conference. Alabama's always going to have the easiest strength of schedule
just because they're so
just
good.
because they're better than everybody.
Right.
Everyone's bad to them. They're a favorite in every game they play.
Yeah.
So you can't say their schedule's hard if they're favored to win every single one of their games.
Right.
I was looking at it. So Bama's sitting at the bottom. I think Georgia's second or maybe third to last, something like that. But yeah, South Carolina, the worst team in the SEC last year. They got the hardest schedule. And you work your way down. And
it tracks that way.
It kind of lines up like that, which that
ours
makes
is
sense.
probably because of the stretch of LSU.
It's the stretch. It's the fact that we added an out-of-conference game with Louisville and an out-of-conference with Liberty, who I don't know how the national media and the people who make these polls think that Liberty is going to be.
I don't think they give tons of stock to Liberty right now.
They probably. I feel like with Liberty, it's no matter what, it's going to be the same as like a UCF, where it's like you got to show me.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's like Boise State was one of the top teams in the country every single year in the BCS era. But every year it was like, you have to show me again.
Yeah,
you have to prove to me again because
West.
you're playing. Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to prove to me that you're capable of doing it. It's like, look, what do we have to do? We won 10 games last year. We're Liberty. We won 10 games. We were ranked higher than we've ever been ranked.
Right.
This is the best our program's ever been. What do we have to show you? And it's like, look, you got to do it consistently. You got to do it consistently. I mean,
and that's the problem with those independent teams. It's hard. I mean, because now I think Liberty had a tough schedule this year, and they performed well.
There's a lot of volatility with the smaller schools, though, as far as recruiting. I mean, some of these schools,
make do with not as much.
Right. They have to make do with obviously just less talented players. But then one of the other things too that you get that can be huge for some of these teams is I remember a couple of years ago. Gosh, it's probably been more than a couple because he's in the NFL now. But Ed Oliver was a 5-star defensive tackle out of Houston, Texas. Goes to University of Houston. A player like that going to a school like Houston makes an enormous impact.
Yeah.
Versus
they were good.
And they were. And versus a 5-star player going to play for Alabama, like obviously that's awesome. He's incredibly talented.
Right.
But he's not making a life-changing, program-changing impact there like a 5-star at Liberty would.
Right.
Or a 4-star at Liberty would. I mean, I'm pretty sure Liberty signed a 4-star last year, and that was the biggest recruit they ever signed, and it was like a massive deal.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the guy's name was, but Free signed their biggest recruit ever, which was a 4-star, and it made a big impact because when you're playing in a school like that with a less talented pool of competition, every little boost helps.
Yeah,
it really does. And the difference between your 2-stars and your guys that aren't ranked by a lot of these big sites and your 4 and 5 stars,
it's a big jump.
Is you're talking about you're talking about a guy who. If guys are ranked as 4 or 5 stars coming out of high school, they're expected to most likely,
end up
in the NFL.
Absurd how big the jump is.
Yeah,
from 3 stars, 2 stars to 4 stars. Like
2 stars to 4 stars, and then 5 stars, you're just on another level. I mean, that's a guy that they expect to play in the NFL if he stays healthy.
Yeah, it's absurd.
That's basically where it's at. All right, so that's so Ole Miss schedule going into 2021. It's tough. It's all tough. Like I said, we play in the SEC. It is what it is. But it's especially tough just because of the stress that we've got.
It'll be fun, though. I mean, I think it's a very fun schedule.
It's going to be fun. One of the things that I do like about it that I was thinking about is that Lane Kiffin, if anybody is going to be able to play good, streaky football, it's going to be Lane Kiffin and this offense. We got Matt Corral coming back, who's arguably going to be the best quarterback in college football. He's got an offense that moves, like that. They score points like nobody's business. That's an offense that doesn't need to be streaky, but they'll be at their best, when they're just rolling. You don't have to take weeks off. You don't have to play a dud. You get to go Bama, Arkansas, Tennessee.
It's not a grueling offense to run because
it's also not a time of possession offense. Yeah. It's not a between the tackles offense.
The offensive linemen aren't just in this grueling.
You're not just beating yourself up.
Miles offense where they're just getting
You're not beating yourself
game.
up with 8-minute
Yeah.
drives back and forth.
Yeah, and you're not running the ball 30 times a game.
Right.
So
Right.
it that helps.
That is one bright spot of it, is that this is an offense that is, if anybody's going to be able to succeed in a stretch like that, it would be an offense like this and a team that's built like Ole Miss, which is good. All right, so that's all we got for today on the Flagship Football Show. We'll be back next week. Hopefully Michael Spears can join us. Hopefully he'll be back, and we'll be a week closer to baseball season. So we'll, like I said, hopefully get some good insight from him and some stories and everything like that. We're talking with Evie Van Pelt over at the Rebel Walk, and we're going to see what we can do about getting some interviews in here in the next couple of weeks. Kind of extending the contact network a little bit. Doing the networking. Not about what you know, it's about who you know.
Yes.
Going to see what we can do. See if we can get some quality entertainment and interviews in here. We had a bunch of good ones in the fall that we really enjoyed. So we're hoping to do that again. But yeah, for me and Lan, we're done here this week. We'll see you back next week on the Flagship Football Show.
In a different place.
In a different place. Booyah.